I've always wondered, what does dedicate your heart actually mean? Think about it. It does mean to commit or dedicate yourself to something with intense passion. For the Survey Corps, this means the dedicated pursuit of finding freedom for the people within the walls, discovering the mysteries that lie outside, and eliminating the Titans. And in many ways, the Survey Corps' motto is truly, dedicate your hearts to fight against Titans. Everyone within the walls falls under this umbrella more or less, no matter who they are, and it's a comforting and inspirational quote for the people within those walls, giving strength to the Survey Corps to keep pursuing the freedom of truth. Really, it's a rallying cry. And this is exemplified by their classic pose of the balled-up fist, representing intensity, touching their heart, which represents the human soul with a straightened back, puffed-out chest, and a left hand behind their back. This physical representation of the words is really well done. It's also really cool to do in front of the mirror when nobody's looking. Try it out. However, what I noticed in practice was that not every single character's interpretations of it are the same. Often I found the more characters I looked into and tried to compare this with, the way each character used it was to motivate themselves for different causes, goals, and even ideals. For example, Eren's version of this phrase is dedicating his heart to the pursuit of truth. His goal is to discover what's in Grish's basement, and while he never saw his reaction as, an accident may have happened, to pursue the truth. He knew there was more to the world, a hidden truth that his father knew and would lead to his suspicious death. He knew there was only one thing he wanted: truth. This dream drives him to achieve some extraordinary things. He ends up sacrificing himself in the pursuit of that freedom, and along with him, many soldiers did as they dedicated their hearts moments before their demise. And one thing I noticed is that through analyzing Dedicate Your Heart, it's a great way to discover the basic idea for a character. While we should never strive to categorize Attack on Titan characters into labels or sides, by analyzing them through this perspective, you do come up with some pretty interesting ways to really understand a character. This is also what I noticed with Floch. I discovered that Floch is very unique in that you can use two different interpretations of Dedicate Your Heart to describe him that represent his character pretty well, or should I say, characters? Initially, his understanding really aligns with the Survey Corps' general meaning, because as a cadet, Floch looked up to figures like Eren, Mikasa, John, and Armin, seeing them as larger-than-life heroes who repelled the Titan shifters. His initial meaning was to be as brave and valuable as his heroes. I would compare pre-Nazi Floch as a kid who would play with toys, so growing up he always wanted to be like those toys and those heroes he acted as. And there is a bit of sadness in that too, considering how Floch eventually turns out, and as well, the way his life ends. It shows that no matter how evil a person may be, you could never possibly predict what Floch would turn into. Because after all, he was someone who was a do-gooder that joined the Survey Corps to follow his heroes. Understanding that also helps you realize that Floch's story is one of tragedy. Not one that's easy to sympathize with, but one that's understandable.
So when the recruiter asked us, which of you has the courage? I actually thought I could do it. Thought I'd be some kind of hero. I didn't know. I thought that if I died, it would at least have some meaning, but it won't. I bet almost everyone ends up having that same final thought. Why did I think I'd be different?
However, this interpretation changes significantly after the suicide charge. With the formation of the Jaegerists, Floch really just perverts and corrupts the phrase into something entirely different. For Floch, Dedicate Your Heart now means to eliminate everything outside the island of Paradis and anyone within who doesn't comply with their threats. It becomes a gatekeeping tool to identify true Jaegerists and root out dissenters. Floch uses this phrase to create a group of followers through an iron fist, fighting against the world in a way reminiscent of King Fritz or Marley. So in other words, when Floch says Dedicate Your Heart, it's not a suggestion, it's a threat. This is most interesting to me because it shows how the suicide charge completely destroyed his mental health to an irreversible degree. Everything after that point was always compared compared to the suicide charge in his mind. Floch indeed has a lot in common with veterans of war, as much as how people returning from war suffer from PTSD due to war being, at its very core, the most realistic and depraved version of the way humans act. Take Kurt Vonnegut, for example. He experienced some of the world's worst atrocities in war and came home and wrote books like Slaughterhouse-Five. Kurt saw the world in a different way than people who never experienced war did, so he knew what humanity was capable of and what truly lie beneath, and so he chose to write about them. And it's the same idea here with Floch. He saw what humanity was capable of, and so to Floch, you either sacrifice your life for the greater good, or you're as good as dead because every moment is now compared to the most horrifying moment that no man should ever go through, which is, in this case, a suicide charge. This is why Floch started to kill innocent dissenters too. If you aren't prepared to do what he did, which is charge into a situation where you will die, or in other words, dedicating your heart to sacrifice yourself for the war effort, then you're a traitor and you're scum. As I said, Floch post-charge is not at all the same person. They're different on a fundamental level because, like Kurt, Floch saw what humanity could do. Something a bit more lighthearted. Oh dear, I just realized that's not possible in an Attack on Titan video. Mikasa's interpretation of the phrase is more personal and selfless. For her, it means protecting her family and remaining as loyal as possible to them and to herself. She strives to be strong enough to stand up to anyone who threatens them, even if it means standing against her own family. Mikasa is driven by her desire to do what is right by her family, which includes protecting Armin and Eren. Her love for Armin is unwavering, and while not, related by blood, they are united in their mission to protect Eren. Mikasa's dedication to Eren is so intense that, as Zeke points out in one scene that's awesome, by the way, she would snap a Titan's neck to ensure his safety.
She doesn't slaughter Titans out of some inborn compulsion to keep you alive. She does it because she adores you.
A poignant example of Mikasa's dedication is also in Season 1, when Armin tells her that Eren has died, so she exhausts all her gas and is ready to give up and surrender her life. However, in that moment of despair, she realizes that while Eren may be gone, there is still much left to fight for. She must continue to fight for herself, for Armin, and for her friends that are counting on her. Despite being lost in a, quote, cruel world full of death and killing, Mikasa understands that she must be strong, because without her strength, she would be nothing but the weak little girl she once was. I think this is also interesting for her because, like Floch, she sorta has different meanings as the series goes on, but not quite. Instead, hers evolves and takes on additional meanings. Originally, she sacrificed herself to become almost subservient to her cause of being the protector to Eren. This is because of the trauma of Carla telling her that she needs to essentially take on a more motherly and caretaking role for Eren in the first season. So for really the first 3 of the 4 seasons, that is Mikasa's character, which obviously has led to many misinterpretations of her, that she is boring, doesn't change as a character, you've heard it. In other words, she's just a very static character. And it's wrong because in the final season, Mikasa begins to realize that she should also focus on herself too, to not be totally selfless and act on her own accord and be independent from Eren. Just like how Eren lied to Mikasa about the Ackerman gene. This wasn't true, and it was up to Mikasa to confront what she knows is the reality of her situation. Eren is lost, and she cannot save him. The way to save him is to break from him, grow as a person, and kill him to end the war. And what's even more beautiful about Mikasa is that she was able to make that clean break without ever growing to hate Eren, but still finding love for a man that gave up everything to protect her and his friends and his family. That is a lot of perspective and a lot of maturity. for a character that supposedly is boring and never changes. Today at 3 p.m. EST, GamerSupps is dropping their day and night, and this drop is pretty freaking awesome. It includes their first ever bomber jacket, and as well, they are dropping new waifu cups and a brand new flavor. So definitely go check those out. Use code CTactics to get 10% off all orders site-wide. Of course, we gotta talk about Levi because he was the inspiration for this video to begin with. This short king, to me, exemplifies, even more than Eren, the meaning of dedicate your heart. No matter what happens to Levi, whether it's the death of Isabel and Ferlin, the murders of the first iteration of Squad Levi, the deaths of Eren, Hanji, his squad mates, or even Eren's betrayal, Levi always has dedicated his heart to the fact that he must keep it all together and make the right decisions to ensure this phrase will never have to be used in this context ever again. He's given up everything and sacrificed even the people that he's loved the most, including his own body and quality of life, just so humanity could keep fighting. Levi, above anyone else, knows this phrase intimately in a way nobody else could ever possibly understand. The first moment I think we really saw this was when Levi, to escape the Titans after the failed 57th expedition, was forced to throw overboard the lifeless bodies of Squad Levi. Constantly throughout Attack on Titan, Levi is someone who, in the face of indomitable peril, chooses to sacrifice a part of him, knowing that the wall of the metaphorical current issue he is facing must be crossed. So over time, he gives up more and more of himself along the way, just a little bit at a time. While on the outside, Levi may look like a hard ass, the reality is that the world has taken so much from him that it has robbed him of the things that we take for granted. That's the way it's always been for him. And Levi is one tough son of a bitch that'll make it through no matter what you throw at him, yet still keeping that same tenderness that he was born with. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the last part of this video, can we get to 500 likes? The more likes means you want to see more Attack on Titan content, so hit that like button. But of course, Eren Yeager. As for Eren, he's a very complicated figure in general. And that may be a little bit of an understatement. And when trying to figure out how he uses this phrase and what it means to him, I was racking my brain. And then I realized that it never changed from the very beginning. After all, Eren is the most static character in the series, being the very same person he is in episode 1 all the way until the final episode. Eren's use of the phrase is very much the pursuit of freedom, and really, that is it. I could literally end this conversation here, and we'd probably all go home really happy. But, I do think this goes deeper than that, because Eren, through his pursuit of freedom, will destroy everything to the ends of the earth just so that everyone has a chance to be free again from the Titans. To do that, he would use the Titans themselves to achieve that goal, and Eren's pursuit of freedom drives him to achieve so much and to push the envelope. He does everything necessary to the extreme, if that's what will free everyone. Eren is both selfless and selfish all at the same time. He's selfless because he would give up his own life to achieve freedom. And he's also selfish in that anyone who tries to stop him will be killed or worse. Eren is simple, yet complicated. Evil, yet good. Black and white. Weak and powerful. Eren's ideology is the DNA which strings all of Attack on Titan together at a core level. Without Eren, Attack on Titan really is a series of singular stories and themes. With him, it's a monolith of an epic story. And really, because of that, you have to think that at its most basic level, to be able to dedicate your heart, you'll need to make sacrifices in order to gain greater strength. Each of these characters we talked about here today exemplifies individual strengths and how, when working together as a collective, you can really achieve a lot of greater things. The Survey Corps, as an example, isn't just a group of military personnel, it's a living organism with multiple functions all aimed at the one true goal of freedom. So, what do you think the meaning of the phrase dedicate your heart is and how it is used in Attack on Titan? Let me know in the comments below. Financially support the channel by becoming a patron, where you'll gain access to my One Piece arc reviews and more. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.